Welcome to the Kendo and Aido Italia podcast in this English language version. Enjoy listening.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We're here again to turn source material into, well, something interesting and hopefully useful for you.
That's the plan.
So today, we're looking at a weapon. A 4-foot wooden staff, the Jio.
Right, but it's more than just the staff itself. We're diving into the story behind Jito, the way of the staff.
And it's quite a survival story, isn't it? I was reading the notes, and it's pretty amazing how it navigated some tricky history.
It really is. I mean, think about this connection. The founder of Judo, Jigorō Kano, he actually stepped in personally to help preserve this specific art.
No kidding. Kano himself.
Yeah, and then fast forward a bit, post-World War II, you have the Allied occupation banning lots of martial arts practices.
A really tough time for many traditional arts.
Exactly. Many didn't make it through. But Judo, it survived that ban. That's pretty unique.
Okay, so resilience is definitely a theme here. It sounds like the history of this stick is also a history of some clever political thinking and adaptation.
That's a great way to put it. So our mission today really is to trace that journey. How did it go from this very specific regional fighting style Shindu Musuri Jujutsu, kept kind of secret by a powerful clan,
Right, protected.
to becoming this standardized national discipline judo that people practice today?
Okay, let's do it. Where do we start? The very beginning.
Makes sense. We have to go back to the roots. Early 17th century, Fukuoka, down in Kyūshū,
And the founder.
a man named Musō Gonnosuke Katsuyoshi. He's the one who established Jōjutsu. But crucially, he didn't just teach it anywhere.
He got backing.
Yes, serious backing. He became a weapons master for the Kuroda clan. Very powerful, very influential family.
So it wasn't just some wandering swordsman style. It was immediately sort of institutionalized, taken under the wing of a major clan.
That's exactly it. And the sources really stress this. Under the Kuroda, the art was kept pretty exclusive. It was mainly for their, let's call it, military caste.
People doing security work, keeping order.
Precisely. Not something the general public would learn. It was specialized training for specific roles. And, you know, that kind of patronage is a double-edged sword.
How so?
Well, it meant the art was protected, funded even, but if the Kuroda clan faced trouble, the art was tied directly to their fate. It could have vanished with them.
Right, okay. That connection to security, to law enforcement roles, that seems pretty central then, which I guess brings us to part one, the tools they added.
Yeah, because if this was for essentially Edo period police work, just having the staff techniques wasn't quite enough.
They needed more options.
They did. The job involved disarming people, sometimes arresting them, dealing with swords, without necessarily resorting to lethal force all the time.
Makes sense.
So the curriculum expanded. This happened under the third headmaster, a guy named Matsuzaki Kinzaman, late 17th century.
Okay, so what did he add? The sources mentioned two specific things.
That's right. First, Ikkaku-ryū Jittejutsu.
The art of the jite. I think I've seen pictures. It's that sort of iron bar thing with a hook.
Yeah, that's the one. Often called an iron bar, but the key bit is that projection, that hook near the handle. People sometimes mistake what it's for.
It's not like a knife or a bayonet then.
No, not at all. It's primarily for parrying and controlling. That hook is specifically designed to catch an opponent's sword blade.
To trap the blade.
Exactly. Trap it, block it, maybe even break it without the jit itself getting sliced up. Plus, you could use the hook to snag clothing, control someone's arm.
A non-lethal disarming tool, essentially.
Yeah.
Very useful for police work against someone with a sword.
The perfect tool for that job. So you've got the staff for reach and striking, the jit for close and disarming, but what about securing someone?
Right, arresting them.
That's the second edition, Ittatsu-ryū Jōjutsu, the art of using a rope.
Rope tying, like for prisoners.
Well, yeah, but it's described as a sophisticated art. Specific knots, methods for immobilization, for securing people properly after an arrest. It wasn't just hog-tying someone.
Okay, so under the Kuroda clan, this Jujutsu school became much more than just staff fighting. It was a whole security package.
Staff, disarming tool, restraint techniques, a complete system.
Making it quite complex.
Definitely. But, you know, keeping something like that going for centuries, especially in a feudal system, it's tough.
Things change, clans rise and fall.
And traditions splinter. The sources mention that, like many old schools, this one faced divisions. At one point, apparently, there were 7 different lines of transmission.
7 versions. Wow.
Yeah, each probably interpreting things slightly differently. And the reality is, by the time the Edo period ended, around 1868, many of those lines had just disappeared, died out.
The challenge of keeping tradition alive,
Mm-hmm.
which sort of narrows the field, bringing us to that really critical point, right? Late 19th century.
Exactly. The art survived, but only in a few lines, and it was clear it probably couldn't just stay confined to Fukuoka anymore if it wanted to, well, continue surviving.
So new masters, new era.
We focus now on the turn of the century. 2 key figures emerge who held the Menkyo Kaiten, the full teaching license: Shiraishii, Hanjiro, and Uchida Ryōgorō.
And they seem to represent different paths forward.
Very much so. It's quite a contrast. Shiraishii Hanjiro, he actually added another weapon system to the mix.
Oh, what was that?
Ishinori Kusarigama Jutsu.
Kusarigama, sickle and chain. That sounds incredibly traditional and complex.
Extremely. It's a highly specialized weapon, very technical, rooted in older, almost medieval warfare concepts. Shiraishii really represents that deep, intricate kori, the old school heritage.
Okay, so that's one side, deep tradition. Then there's Uchida Ryōgorō.
Uchida seems to have been looking maybe more towards the future. He was the innovator, the pragmatist, perhaps.
What did he do?
He created a whole new system, Uchida Rishu Tanjutsu.
Tanjutsu, that's a walking stick, right? Like
Yeah.
a Western-style cane.
Exactly. So instead of the ancient sickle and chain, he took the core jujutsu techniques and adapted them for use with a walking stick, a cane, something people were actually carrying around in rapidly modernizing Meiji Japan.
Wow, that's really telling. One master adds the medieval weapon, the other adapts the art for the modern walking stick. Shows they knew things had to change somehow.
Absolutely. And Uchida didn't just innovate the technique, he innovated the strategy for the art's survival. He's the one who really started pushing jujutsu outside of Fukuoka.
You
Moved to Tokyo, early 1900s, and started teaching some very influential people there, planting the seeds, you could say.
Anyone we'd recognize.
Well, one name stands out, Nakayama Hakudo.
Nakayama Hakudo, the famous sword master, founder of Musō Shinrin-ri Aido.
The very same. Teaching someone of Hakudo's stature was a huge deal for the Jew.
Why specifically? What did that achieve?
It gave the Jew art legitimacy on a national stage beyond just its history with the Kuroda clan. If a top sword master like Hakudo thought Ji's techniques were valuable enough to study,
then it wasn't just some obscure regional curiosity. It was recognized as important within the broader martial arts world.
Exactly. Uchida really set the stage for the next big development. Which brings us to part 3.
And the biggest name drop yet, Jigorō Kano.
Right. Founder of Judo. So picture this. Early 1920s, Kano witnesses a demonstration of Shindo Musuri Jujutsu. He's incredibly impressed. But more than that, he sees its potential. Potential for, physical education, character development, the kind of things he was building judo around.
So he wanted it taught more widely.
He went straight to the top, to the recognized main exponent at the time, Shiraishii Hanjiro, the Kusarigama guy. Kano asked him to come teach the art permanently in Tokyo, at the Kodokan no less.
Wow, the Kodokan, the heart of judo. That's a massive invitation, pulling it right onto the national stage. Did Shiraishii go?
Well, he couldn't make the permanent move himself. He was based in Fukuoka, so he did the next best thing. He chose his most talented student,
The successor.
Shimizu Takaji, apparently a real prodigy. He'd earned his Menkyo Kaiten, the full license, when he was only 23.
Very young.
Extremely. So Shimizu gets the nod. He heads to Tokyo in 1927. And sticking to the arts roots, one of his first gigs is teaching the Imperial Navy Military Police.
Okay, so Shimizu's in Tokyo. He's got this connection to law enforcement, Kano's backing, and Uchida's example of modernizing. What's his perspective? What does he see as the big challenge?
The threat of extinction, plain and simple. Shimizu looked around at modernizing Japan and realized that this traditional jujutsu tied to feudal ways and clan secrecy, it was just really vulnerable.
It could easily fade away as society changed.
Right. So he essentially doubled down on Uchida's approach. He decided he had to transform it, make it a martial art with national reach and relevance, not just keep it as a preserved relic.
If it stayed a secret technique, it would die when secrecy lost its value.
So how did he make it national? Did he, rebrand it?
Pretty much. In 1940, that was a key year. He officially changed the name, dropped the older jujutsu, meaning staff technique or art, and changed it to
Jodo, the way of the staff. That door ending, like judo, kendo, aikido. It signals a modern martial discipline, a path of development, not just a collection of fighting tricks.
Elevating its status.
And he backed it up with organization, founded the Dai Nihon Jodokai, the Great Japan Judo Association, and became its president, making it official.
That standardization sounds crucial. But you mentioned earlier the ultimate test was after the war. That's the survival part.
Yeah, this is where Shimizu's pragmatism really paid off, maybe in a way he didn't fully anticipate. Post-WWII, the Allied occupation banned many martial arts.
Saw them as too nationalistic, too militaristic.
Right. Schools were closed, practices forbidden. It was devastating for many traditions. But judo was exempted.
Oh, why?
Because Shimizu had embedded it so successfully within the police forces. Remember, he taught the Navy police, and crucially, it had been adopted by the Tokyo Metropolitan Police.
So the occupation forces saw it not as a banned martial art, but as necessary police training for keeping public order.
That seems to be the key distinction they made. It was seen as practical, functional, for law enforcement self-defense, not primarily as a traditional budo aimed at cultivating a warrior spirit, which was the bigger concern for the occupiers.
So that one decision, focusing on practical application within the police, saved it from the ban. Incredible.
It absolutely guaranteed its survival when others were forced underground or just faded away. Pure pragmatism winning the day.
And that pragmatism carried over into how he taught it, right? He realized the old way wasn't suited for, well, everyone.
Exactly. The traditional Kori teaching method, it sort of throws you into complex forms, the kata, right away. It assumes you already have a lot of martial arts background, good body mechanics.
Not ideal for beginners or for teaching large groups.
Not at all. Shimizu saw that if judo was going to be a national thing, like judo was becoming, it needed to be easier to get into. He looked straight at what Kano had done with judo.
What kind of changes did he make? Concrete stuff.
Well, first, he introduced kihon, basic exercises, foundational movements. These didn't really exist in the old curriculum in the same way.
So building blocks. Learn the basic strikes, blocks, stances first.
Right. Build muscle memory, get the fundamentals down before you try to string them together in a complex sequence. Makes perfect sense for wider teaching.
What else?
Second, he actually created 2 new kata himself, sugetsu and shaman. And the sources note these are very direct, very effective, designed almost explicitly, it seems, for practical police application. Less ornate, maybe, than some older forms.
Streamlined for function. And there was influence from kendo, too. The way of the sword.
Yeah, that seems clear. As Jido became more integrated into the national martial arts scene, especially later with the All Japan Kendo Federation, there was pressure to, well, standardize certain aspects.
Norm a bit.
You could say that. Things like how the partner receiving the techniques, the uchidachi, stands and moves. He started using more frontal stances, the raised rear heel you see in kendo, and even some of the basic stances, the kame, were apparently consciously drawn from the standardized kendo kata that had been developed earlier in the century. It's all pointing towards homogenization, making it fit into the bigger budo structure.
So with all these changes, kihon, new kata, kendo's influences, by the 1950s, you must have had a pretty significant difference between what Shimizu was teaching in Tokyo and the older style back in Fukuoka.
Oh, definitely. The split was becoming undeniable. You had Shimizu's Tokyo version, pragmatic, adaptable, focused on accessibility and survival. And you still had the traditional Koiyu in Fukuoka, focused on preserving the original forms, the unique details, maybe resisting some of those changes.
2 distinct streams flowing from the same source.
Pretty much. And Shimizu wasn't quite done standardizing. His final big move came in 1968.
What was that?
He created Seitei Jōdo.
Seitei. That means like established or standardized, right?
Exactly. Seitei Jōdo is basically a core set 12 kata, carefully chosen from the broader Shindu Musryu tradition.
Why create this specific set? What was the goal?
The goal was essentially to create a basic literacy in Jido, a common foundation. It was specifically designed so that people practicing other related arts, especially kendo and aido, could learn a standardized judo curriculum within their own federation, the Zen Nihon Kendō Renmei.
So it's the entry point, the common ground for everyone training under that big umbrella organization.
That's the idea. It made Jido much more accessible to a huge number of practitioners across Japan and eventually the world.
So for someone learning today, how do these 2 aspects, the standardized Seitei and the traditional Koryu, fit together?
Well, Seitei Jōdo is usually the starting point for most people now. It provides those standardized forms, the ones used for gradings, for competitions, for general instruction pretty much everywhere. It's the lingua franca of Judo.
The common language.
Right. But the Kori, the older, broader tradition, it definitely still exists. It's seen as the deep end.
Where the older forms, the variations, the deeper history lies.
Exactly. It's the world of unique interpretations, the specific teachings passed down through different lines, reflecting centuries of development and personal research by the masters.
The sources mention that feeling of protecting something unique, citing masters like Ishido and René van Amersfoort's message to copy and protect that Kori heritage.
Yeah, there's a strong sense that the Koryu holds knowledge and nuances that simply can't be captured in a standardized set like Seitei. It's seen as an irreplaceable heritage.
So it really is this incredible trade-off, isn't it? The original art survived centuries because it was protected by a clan.
Then it survived the modern era thanks to Shimizu's, political skill and his willingness to adapt, even if it meant simplifying or changing some things.
He traded some of the unique complexity for national relevance, for standardization, so the art could reach thousands instead of just a handful.
It's a classic tension, depth versus breadth. How do you preserve the unique soul of a tradition while also ensuring it survives and spreads in a changing world?
It's a fascinating story of negotiation, really, between the past and the present.
It forces you to think about what tradition really means and how it stays alive.
Which leads us nicely into our final thought for you, the listener, to chew on. We've seen this contrast play out. The standardized, widely accessible Seitei Jōdo on one hand, and the deep, traditional, perhaps more fragile Koryu on the other.
Yeah, the system designed for mass instruction versus the heritage needing careful protection.
So here's the question. When a traditional art, any traditional art, undergoes that kind of codification, that push towards national standardization, often for the very good reason of survival, what do we gain? Accessibility, longevity, sure. But what subtle details, what unique insights, what irreplaceable knowledge might risk getting smoothed over or even lost when that deep traditional heritage is streamlined into a set of basic universal forms?
What's the price of adaptation? Definitely something worth thinking about.
Thank you for listening to this podcast.
Kendo Iaido Italia, il podcast.